We are talking about monetization in Overwatch today because I think it is a lot more complicated topic than I think a lot of people give it credit for, because I think it's really easy just to be like, monetization bad, too much monetization, Blizzard's trying to take my money, because one, we don't know everything about how the money is distributed behind the scenes, about how much is like purely for profit, how much is literally going back into the game. Two, like at the end of the day, the game does need to make money, and I think we all understand this to an extent, but I find that every time the game attempts to make more money is always met with backlash. I want to go through like your comments, and I want to look at like you guys' response, what you feel about the monetization system, because I do think there are things that are bad that we need to fix. But I want to talk, before we get into this, that like we have to remember that Overwatch's initial model, buying the game and then loot boxes, was not great. Yeah, you didn't have to buy loot boxes. Sure, you always got something when you leveled up. But at the end of the day, all the cosmetics functioned in a gacha system, apart from coins, which are a whole thing that are tied to the gacha system. Like the regular cosmetics, all of your progression is tied to the gacha system, save for like gold weapons and other like certain things, right? By the end of Overwatch, I think it was a much more lenient system. You didn't get duplicates at all, unless you had everything. Basically, you weren't getting duplicates. Every time you got duplicates, you would get coins. So you would basically have this engine, this machine, that you would get coins all the time. The problem, I think, with that idea is that, think of it this way. Let's say I play like just like a normal amount. I log in for an hour a day. Maybe I play like up to 10 hours a week. You know, like this is just a game that I like playing in my free time, or less, right? Like, I think that's a normal amount for somebody who just kind of likes the game casually. I am not very likely to be able to buy a lot of the things that I want, because it's all on this gacha system. I'm rolling for everything, and even if I got something like, oh, I finally got a legendary, well, I don't play Symmetra, so it's kind of worthless to me. And I think that is a bit of a problem. But then you take it to the next step. Somebody who plays this game all the time, by the end of Overwatch, for a while, the loot progression, the progression of everything was just nothing, because loot boxes never gave me anything ever, apart from randomly rolling legendaries once in a blue moon. I go, okay, if there's another base skin that I'll never use because I don't care about it that much. It is not a great progression system. Yes, it is a progression system, but tying it to gacha systems like that is just not really good. Like, yes, it's free, but it's still like a bad progression system. I think that people don't quite see that. A lot of the times, you know, they're kind of blinded by it, about how nice and lenient it is. It is not a perfect solution, and it kind of loses what it's trying to get done. On top of that, seasonal events really add to that FOMO. If you don't play a lot and you don't have a lot of coins, you probably do have to roll and roll and roll. And when you're rolling seasonal loot boxes, you don't get as many coins because it's always giving you the new items. So it's giving you the rares and the epics and stuff, but they're the new ones. You aren't getting the coins, and if you aren't getting the skins that you want, you don't get the money to then get them. And guess what, loser? There's no way to buy coins just to bypass this entire process, right? That's how the gacha systems work. They want you to pay more money than what you would typically be willing to get you to get this stuff. That is the crux of the gacha system, and Overwatch had a very nice, lenient one. Probably the best gacha system I've ever seen, but the problem with gacha systems always has existed. That is something that I think that is important context. The other part of the important context here is that Overwatch needed to change its model. You need to stay competitive in the market, because in these types of games, giving people a reason not to leave your game is very hard. When you directly put monetization into it, that is a reason people are not going to leave your game. It's the sunk cost fallacy. When you watch Overwatch not have some of these things like Valorant and League, where they are just like constantly like money makers, people find it hard to play and find the time for Overwatch. Again, even as like it is a fallacy, even if it doesn't like really make logical sense, that's not how people work. It's not logic. The fact that they have spent so much time and money in these other games makes it hard to justify playing Overwatch. In order to keep the fan base that they have, not to bleed them away, they need to change the model. And we all agreed at the time they needed to change the model to get with the times. When Blizzard starts making money, they keep people. When they keep people who make money for them, then they can make more money to put resources into the game. Those resources cause them to make more money. And that is the feedback loop, right? That is how the game survives. With this model, Overwatch cannot die. People are not going to stop playing Overwatch. We've reached the point where 9 years in, it can't go away. Sure, it can be smaller. Obviously, it's not at the top of the world. We don't need it to be at the top of the world. No one wants it to be at the top of the world. No game will ever be there forever. No game ever makes the same amount of money and has the same success being so widespread than games that literally just milk the whales and milk the people who are diehard into them. That is what League does. Valorant is on that path because Valorant will not be the most popular game forever. I wanted to put that context out there because I'm not white knighting for Blizzard. I'm not saying that I enjoy these monetization practices, but the sad reality of the live service industry is that these are requirements that they need to happen because no company is okay with just having a game exist. They aren't okay with a game just making enough money to keep the servers on, make enough money to just make sure that they can keep it updated. They need to make a profit or else they can just take the development resources and put it to something that will make a profit. So they have to do that. As awful as it is, as much as I would love for them to just keep making stuff for us with, unlimited resources, unlimited budget, it's part of the deal. And the more that they are incentivized to make that money, the more of those resources and time goes in to making the cosmetics and not changing the other parts of the game. When they add more monetization, more ways to make money, potentially increasing their max revenue, yes, a lot of times it will go into more cosmetics and more money-making machines, but a lot of times as well, it will go into the other things that we like. So if you want to have a fully well-rounded live service game, literally almost a decade out from its release, it needs to have more monetization to get the features that we got at launch. That's how these companies work. That's how game development works now in the live service space. Finally, with that out of the way, let's talk about your guys' thoughts about monetization. And let's really have kind of like a dialogue here. I think Overwatch personally is very blatantly over-monetized in response to it failing to hit financial objectives in 2023. The Mythic Shop, Gilded Aspects, Mythic Weapons, all 2024 editions designed to milk more money. The ball to me feels like a disappointing double down on FOMO tactics that I feel the industry is moving past. I was hoping that certain competitors would force them to be more generous, but I get the impression that they just plan to squeeze their existing whales for all of their worth. Which is a shame because all this monetization leaves very little extrinsic motivation to play outside of ranked. No levels, no loot boxes, just a super undercooked hero mastery with no meaningful rewards, and pretty unappealing battle passes due to the lack of universal rewards. So hope you play the characters featured. It's so blatant, they're pricing for profit and not retention, which due to the pressures from bean counters may be their only ways to keep the lights on, which just sucks. And I think that's an important thing to add at the end there, right? There's profit, there's pressure, there's so much pressure to make more money, to make more profit, that a lot of times things are going to slip through, right? Like that, a lot of these decisions are because of those. And I think that's really important to note because you can be disappointed, you can think that everything is over monetized, but I think also being a little more sympathetic and just being like, they probably don't want this either. Like, this sucks for everyone involved because this is just how it works now. I think that's a really a good way to think about it. Obviously it's a little doomer, but it's, I think, a little more empathetic, which is a good way. But literally going through what you say here, no, it failed to hit financial objectives in 2023. I don't doubt that. Well, I say that, but I will say, to me, there is a strength in showing that you can take something out of the battle pass. Think about the battle pass, right? The battle pass is guaranteed money. There will always be people who will buy the battle pass, especially if you put heroes on it, right? So there will always get that money, right? Every time a battle pass comes out, every 2 months, you're gonna get that $10 from a bunch of people, right? What they decided, what they have figured out, is that they don't need to put heroes on the battle pass anymore because they make enough money without doing that. Either they make enough money from the battle pass that it doesn't really matter, or more likely they make so much money from the shop and from other ways of monetizing that they don't need that extra, like, consistent money from the battle pass because they're going to make their consistent money elsewhere. Kiriko, Mercy, Genji, Reinhardt. You see what I'm talking about? That's why some of those characters, in my opinion, get those skins so often. Yes, we know they make money, but they make consistent money. That's why they're always there, right? So the fact that we have all of these skins, the people are buying these skins, actually allows the greater game to benefit because you don't need to monetize gameplay systems like that. Now, should they have monetized them in the first place? No, I never agreed with that decision. I think most people never ever agreed with that decision. But it is ironically better for all of us that there's so much money getting pumped into the game through these other means that we don't have to resort to that, right? So that is kind of like, that's where I feel about like that, I guess. I don't know how to describe that in the best way. The Vault doubling down on FOMO, I think this is a tough one to me because the Vault is simultaneously creating a little more FOMO, but relieving some of it as well, because when a shop skin comes out, you know that you have a week, 2 weeks, whatever, to get it or it's gone. And you have to pray that they it was popular enough for them to rerun it maybe later, especially if it's like in a collab skin or something. They won't rerun those typically. So they want you to get those now, right? That is the FOMO. The Maximilian shop allows you to say, okay, well, now you have the opportunity to get more, like you get it again, right? And not only get it again, but get it at a discount. So it's something that you already wanted and you get it at a better price, which in theory, especially since it's on some of your most played characters, you could wait, not buy it then, and then hope you roll it in a Maximilian shop where you get a discount on it. You would have bought it regardless, but you're actually paying less money because of the Maximilian shop, right? The other thing is that like, oh, I wouldn't have bought that, but now since there's, you know, a discount on it, I will. That's the FOMO, right? It's like, oh, well, it's here now and I kind of wanted it, but I didn't want to pay a full price, but I think I can get down with this price. That is adding more FOMO. But I think there are ways that you can it is manipulatable to an extent where you can get stuff where you don't have to like miss out, right? If there were a way to like, instead of it being based on your playtime, because if you're like a Mercy OGP, you love Mercy, you never have to buy any of her skins because they'll roll in your shop 5 out of 5, right? So then it's like, okay, sweet, awesome. I can just wait for my Maximilian shop roll because it could always happen and I'll get it then and I'll save money. But if you're like me, who has a very like even spread across basically the entire cast, then relatively obviously, my shops are just like complete random. Like Mercy is one of my least played characters. I got 2 Mercies in my last shop. Torb is not a character I play. I got Torb in my last shop, right? I can't do that. I can't like wait because my Maximilian shops are just going to be complete random. Like maybe there's something that I didn't think I really wanted, but it's like super cheap. I'm like, I'm down. But like I can't do that. So in fact, the FOMO for me is on the initial run where it's more expensive. That is when I'm going to be spending the most. You know what I mean? Like that is when I'm pressured to spend because I can never guarantee I'm going to see that skin ever again. If there were a way that you could pick what characters you want your Maximilian shop to roll, maybe from, you know, I'm sure Blizzard would not want you to just pick one character and you can basically guarantee stuff, especially for characters that don't get a lot of skins like Venture. But if there's some way to like limit the pool, then you actually have a chance where you don't have to like feel FOMO. Now, of course, then the thing is like, well, it showed up in my shop, but it wasn't a great price. So do I roll it again or like, oh, I should just buy it now? it's always going to come. There's no way to avoid it. But I think the fact that people are saying, oh, this is FOMO, it's really bad, it's trying to manipulate you, I think is true, but it is a little overblown, in my opinion. Just a hair. I don't want to like say that it's not there, but I do think that it is not as bad as a lot of people say. Now, the motivation to play outside of ranked, you know, I talked about how loot boxes are not a good way to do that. I talked about that earlier. I don't think that loot boxes were really a good motivating factor, especially for people who play all the time, right? Then again, those people don't need motivation to play, but they would probably still want something out of playing all that time. But again, a loot box is not a good, healthy way to motivate people to play. But the battle pass, in theory, you know, battle passes are supposed to be ways to get you to play. But that comes down to like what you like in the battle pass. Like if you don't personally like the skins, you won't go and do the battle pass. Like to me, I just always do all the battle passes because I play a lot of heroes. I like a lot of the skins most of the time. So I get the battle passes. Like it's all about that. But if you don't like the characters that they have, like I agree, there need to be some other ways to get stuff. There is the free track, but again, it's all about like I don't like what's on the free track. The hero, like, what's it called, levels, was kind of a way to show off your skills, but there's nothing to it, right? Marvel Rivals has that system where like you get player icons and stuff for playing characters, and if Overwatch had something like that, I think that with a little more substantialness, not just like player titles, I think that would go a lot a lot further of a way. Like maybe an emote, maybe a spray, like sprays even. Obviously people would like skins, but like, let's be frank, even if it's just a recolor, you know, maybe they'd be down to recolor, like, oh, this is like the gold color and like you played this much character. That would get people wanting to do that much more often. Then you don't have to be like, oh, I don't want to, like, there's always a reason to play, right? It's not just based off the battle pass. Because when I beat the battle passes, it's a lot harder to be like, okay, I got a really long grind ahead of me if I want this silly, like, 175 tag at the end of the battle pass. Or like past the battle pass, right? But if I always had a reason to play, like, oh, I'm always like chipping away at like my Sojourn skin, or I'm always chipping away at some like basic victory pose, but it still shows people that I've played a lot of this character. Like, I agree, that's a really good way to get people playing. And I think the crux of like the monetization here, and bring it back, is that getting people to play your game more often allows you to have more opportunities for people to want to buy stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, I can defend like how much Overwatch is monetized to an extent, but how much of that comes from the fact that there isn't as much motivation to play the game that I think there should be in a game like this, right? Because again, if you get people playing your game more often, again, they're just more incentivized to want to buy things. So you don't need to have all these extra ways to do it. And there are going to be some other posts about this. We'll talk about like what I think about all the extra ways that they've monetized in the past. But that is kind of like the ironic like thing here. I think that's the hardest thing to kind of grasp. What is the sweet spot of choice and what's it called, number of monetization strategies, and how much like they give you for free to play the game? Because if they give you too much, then you never feel like you have to buy anything. And like, yes, that's good for free to play players, but if they start losing money, then you start losing out on the things that they can provide for you for free, and then they have to monetize more. Do you see, like, it's such like a vicious system where they're fighting against each other. Hear me out. Game checks your most played from the past week or month and gives you a skin or highlight depending on hours. Let's say 10 hours equal highlight, 30 hours equals epic skin. Yeah. Something like this based on recent playtime, since you can get a weekly report card. That's kind of interesting, but I think you run out too quickly. Probably needs to be like season based, and way harder to get stuff. You know what I mean? Like, not just like, you know, and like obviously your example is you know, just throwing numbers out to proof of concept. But yeah, I think it would need to be like still works, right? Yeah, exactly. That's another way, right? Any motivation to get people like playing to work towards something, and I think that's something that gets people like wanting to play. If you're working towards something, I think that is like a really good way. A lot of people like work towards their rank, and that's enough for them. But you know, just getting people to want to be motivated to do something and like pushing them to be motivated is a good way to get them playing, get them buying other stuff, etc. It's a win-win for everybody. Two things about the vault. Most of us probably already have the skins we want for the characters we play, so the vault probably didn't offer much. Second, I think the abundance of monetization is a function of a shrinking player base. One, if you play one character and you buy a lot of stuff, it's not about you. And I think that's part of the thing. It's not about you if you're one of the people that always buys stuff and you always have these skins for these characters, right? They want more people buying or using the system, right? They are in some way trying to create more whales. I think it's less so about getting people to randomly like pick here or there, but it's like, if I play a lot of Lucio, that's like, well, it's my example here, but I don't buy every Lucio skin. Now I'm more inclined to buy every Lucio skin because they're going to be presented to me very cheaply, right? Or at least considerably cheaper. So it's more to like create more high spenders. When games have cheap cosmetics, I'm willing to buy a lot of them. I bought every DLC in Deep Rock Galactic because it's such a good idea. That is the thing, right? And that's another one of those push and pulls. When games have cheap cosmetics, that is, you know, yeah, you are more inclined because it's easy, you get a lot of value out of it. But at some point is how many people are like you. There are going to be a lot of people that won't buy any, like regardless, right? So where's the line of like, we can make money off of this because it's cheaper, and where's the line of like, we're just going to make it expensive because we're going to lose out on too much money if we make it too cheap, right? We aren't getting that many more people in to give us money. You know what I mean? Like, they make more money if it's expensive. Like, where's the line there? That's like really hard. And that's not something I'm going to claim to know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to claim anything. I agree that cheaper prices on average drive up more sales total, but I'm not an analyst at Blizzard. I don't run the numbers. I don't do the data. So that is also something to talk about. Second, I think the abundance of monetization is a function of a shrinking player base. I think that is true, but that is a life cycle thing. That is always going to happen. Again, unless you're Fortnite, you're not going to be on the top of the world forever, and you're going to have less of a pool of people to get money from. So you have to find ways to continue getting money from those people. And on average, the people that do give you money need to be higher spenders because you have to make up for all the money lost from the people who aren't still playing your game, right? I don't think that is necessarily an Overwatch problem. I think that is just a fact of life. Fact of live service games. Like, that is just the natural life cycle. They have to keep introducing these ways to make money because their potential money is less. And if their profit shrinks at all, people, the higher ups get mad. They don't give it as much resources, and it will just continue to go away, right? It's such a hard thing. They have to keep making money and make the same amount of money relative to inflation or whatever to continue the output that they have been going at. And if they want to get a higher output like we would love for them to have, that's even more money that they need to make to justify that. So that is where like they need to continue to make more monetization options because they need to make more money on average. I think cosmetics is the best monetization for free-to-play games. Saying it is predatory does not make sense. Like, you get to play the actual content for free. All of the development, server maintenance, constant update costs money. It has to come from somewhere. Games are no charity. Also, do we just collectively forget about the time when play to win is the industry standard? I agree with you. It is not inherently predatory. Now, it is very easy to make it predatory, right? Like, it is very easy to make it, you know, Overwatch, I don't think is super predatory compared to things that I've seen before, but like the fact that there's just multiple currencies, the fact like it gets confusing to understand where you can buy stuff and how things work. Just the fact a FOMO deal or like a limited time deal, how every game works is always going to be predatory. It's always it's preying on you wanting to like not want to miss out. But at the same time, any deal at any store ever works the same way. You know what I mean? If it is a limited time, which is a way to get people to buy things because you don't want to miss out, it's not inherent to video games, right? In fact, I'm sure there's a bunch of you who bought Overwatch because Blizzard put it on sale on their client. I bought an extra account because it was like $10. You know what I mean? Years ago, obviously, it doesn't work like that anymore. How do I define predatory? I mean, like, it's trying to manipulate your sensibilities to get you to spend money when you otherwise wouldn't have. But that is just how, you sell things a lot of the time. And it's really more of like, where does it become just like general regular sales and like regular how you get people to buy stuff, and when does it actually become like a really big problem that feels like you're always preying on people's sensibilities? That's why I think gacha is terrible, because it's just like it's all luck, it's all grabbing the dopamine. It tries to gamify gambling. That is predatory. You know what I mean? And that's why I think that a gacha system, even as lenient as Overwatch is, should not have existed. Should not exist. We should not go back to loot boxes. We should not introduce loot boxes in any capacity because of that. If they're directly tied to monetization. I mean, if you can't monetize, they just give it to you randomly. I mean, sure, I guess. I don't know. Like it's like, oh, you just get like a random loot box if you play enough and you can't buy it. It's like, okay, I guess. Like, I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of, I think that's where I'll say my piece there. Hot take: people only love loot box because they were free. That's definitely part of it, right? It was part of the buy once model, and you could always get something, right? And I think that's actually like, again, it's like a bad model to be like, I bought this game forever. I'm always guaranteed to get something, but what I'm guaranteed to get is a roll of a loot box. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, honestly, now when you buy a battle pass for $10, you are guaranteed to get all the things that the battle pass tells you that it's going to give you if you play enough. Now, obviously, they go away after a certain amount of time, which I think other games have done systems like that better, where you can work on them later. But still, it's more like you actually get, like, you spend money and you're guaranteed the things that they tell you are. Like there's a better like system there in the battle pass model. I think monetization in games is fine as long as it's done in a very ethical, honest way and it provides no competitive advantage. Other than that, OW is a free-to-play game that needs to make its money back somehow. Battle passes and other in-game cosmetics are the #1 source of their income. My problem lies with how much they charge for those cosmetics. Original skins being $19 is understandable. Not saying it's not expensive for a skin, but I can let them have a pass on it. But recolors should never be the same price as the original inspiration. They should be much cheaper. It also takes a lifetime to figure out that you can purchase a skin from a bundle on the hero gallery of set hero. This should be stated, or have a system that allows you to purchase the skin separately from the bundle. There's too much going on in the shop that calling OW2 a glorified shop update makes more sense every other season. Most games have the Battle Pass and shop exclusive skins. OW has Battle Pass, shop exclusive mythic tabs, and now the Vault. Each page is filled with cosmetic content. It's too many tabs for a shop. Way too many. In conclusion, making money is fine in the free-to-play model, but they have to cut down how aggressive they got, because it seems that most of our money is being used on their monetization team and nothing else. The recolors need to be much cheaper. The shop needs to be much shorter, simpler, and honest about what you get. PS, most shop skins don't even have special sound effects, so $50 is insane. Obviously, games need to monetize. I don't think live service games need to monetize. We're not debating that, right? Let's see here. My problem lies with how much they charge for cosmetics. unfortunately, this is just something that we're not going to get past, I don't think. When the popular games, the one that really make a lot of money, like League of Legends, like Valorant, are charging like $20 for a skin, every game is doing it. That's just the market price. Like that is the price that they figured out is the most people buying it and the most revenue, right? I was talking about how it's hard to figure out like how cheap can you go where you're still making more money than if you made it more expensive. And it seems like that this $20 mark is just where everyone has determined that it is like, if you go past that, it's going to be way harder to get your money back. And if you go lower than that, you're not making as much money as you could. So this is where that kind of intersects, right? So as much, and I agree, right? You say like you can have a pass on it. Recolors, I do agree. It's actually crazy to me because they did do some recolor bundles where they bundled in, it was the zombie ones from the end of one of the last seasons where they bundled in the new recolor and the old one. Not only were those bundles cheaper than normal for a bundle with 2 legendary skins, they also effectively, because those bundles had skins that you may already own, they were effectively cheaper. Like if I wanted that Soldier 76 bundle, it was like, I don't know, like $3 for the new skin and a couple of like, maybe it was just the new skin. I can't remember if all no, it was all the soldier bells and whistles that came in that big bundle, right? So like, I don't understand. Like, they did that one time and they haven't brought it back again. I think that's a really good way to do recolors. Just always have a bundle where if you own that skin already, you get some money off. And again, those bundles were cheaper than a normal bundle was to start. So you were getting like, you know, it's much more likely that you're going to want to use your money there instead of against just like a random regular $20 recolor. I don't know why they don't do that more often. The other thing I really want to talk about here is it's a lifetime to figure out that you can purchase a skin from a bundle of the hero gallery of a said hero, right? This is where that manipulating you and predatory stuff kind of comes into play. It's the confusing you with a million different ways, a million different places to be, a bunch of currency, like not even understanding that you're allowed to buy things separate from their bundles. That is predatory, right? And Overwatch, maybe it's just because I've been playing the game and I follow it, so I know everything. Overwatch is definitely not the worst offender here. It is an offender, but it is not the worst here. You know, like Overwatch has legacy credits, which you can only buy like base skins with, which to me, I know what all of those are because I've been playing the game, but if you're a new player, it's confusing, right? There's the shop credits, and then there's the mythic prisms, which, what's it called? You buy things that are in the mythic shop, but they're always like, this is a mythic skin, this is a mythic weapon, right? So at the very least, the nomenclature there is consistent, right? If I have mythic stuff, I buy the mythic items. If I have, you know, Overwatch credits, I buy anything I want. And if I have legacy credits, I can buy a certain amount of things. I do think it's confusing, and I don't like how you're allowed to buy the legacy stuff with regular credits, but that's a little bit of a different thing. I want to take a detour here. This is not going to happen very often. We're going to look at League of Legends for just a second, okay? I want you guys to indulge me here. Now, I'm not trying to like whataboutism this, but I want to show you like a really good example of what I was just talking about, of like what I mean when confusion is extremely predatory. Yeah, League jump scare. I want to scare you guys. I want to scare you guys, okay? So I have this blue essence, whatever that means, right? Like, it's not currency. Like, you know how Overwatch, again, like I said, these are the mythic ones, right? It's really easy to know what you buy with the mythic ones compared. This is blue essence. I still do not understand what this does. Then there is RP, which is the regular premium currency. But then you start going into the minds of stuff where TFT has its own separate currency, where you can buy things and buy rerolls, the collection, which brings you to the shop, and then you go into your loot so you can see like what you have. What is it? There's a mythic shop now. See, there you go. There's a purple currency I didn't know about. I'm just trying to find where my materials are. Okay, so I have Hextech boxes that open up with key fragments. How do I get key fragments? Well, I think you play the game. I don't understand. Then there's 3 different other types of chests here. Then there's XP boost. And then there's champions, which you can buy champion shards with your blue essence. But champion shards are not buying champions. But then you can you get multiple champion shards, which you can make into essence. And guys, I've played a bunch of TFT in my time. I have very recently just dabbled in like actual Summoner's Rift, and this shit confuses me so bad that I don't even think I want to attempt to spend money. There's orange. What is orange? What is the orange essence? Where does that come from? What does that have to do with anything? There's like currencies, and then there's like items that act as currency and you can like change to be currency. This is an example of a system that makes zero sense. It is extremely confusing. They want you to buy the wrong thing. They want you to buy too much. They want you to not realize that you have currency because they spread it out among so many different things, right? So again, not to be like whataboutism, but I think this is a really good example of an extremely predatory monetary system. With that being said, Overwatch isn't that bad, but it does have these factors. I mean, it has 4 different currencies. It has like different rules about when you can use things, right? So that is a bit of a problem. It is a bit of an issue. On one hand, I'm glad that Blizz dropped paywall pass locked heroes last year and that you can technically play mostly full Overwatch experience without spending a single cent. On the other hand, oh boy, the Max Shop is a new low in FOMO-based monetizations. Like, if the Max Shop has limited time skins that can't be collected again, that's a nice safety net for players that missed a season. But we all know that the reason the Max Shop is here to milk the whales and psychologically manipulate FOMO-fearing players into shelling out more money for inventory skins, right? We talked about this, but it's, you know, it benefits some people and it doesn't benefit others, right? It gets more money out of other people's. It is not a net benefit. It is not a net negative for the entire community. It's a net positive for Blizzard making money, right? And you know, I got people who were like, when I said like, oh, the Maximilian Shop is a very smart decision from Overwatch, a lot of people disagreed with me. They said, what is so smart about something like this? It's just like, it's blatantly predatory. It's monetizing the game too much. But it's like, again, if I'm Blizzard, the company, it's smart for me to make money. It's smart for me to make a lot more money than normal. So that's where that came from. It's not that I like agree or I think this is the thing that Overwatch really needed, right? I have a whole laundry list of things that I would change about Overwatch before even touching this stuff. But it is smart for Blizzard. And again, more money in means more resources in, means more things in the game. So that is also something to note. But the frustrating thing is I don't know how you solve monetization with a game in active development. Granted, not all that revenue is going to the devs. I'm sure most of the greedier monetization decisions are execs. So maybe there's a world where OW is more equitable because they aren't supporting some CEO's gross salary. Maybe having competition from Deadlock and rivals will give the devs more leverage to cut back on the more predatory practices. I'd love to see actual hero-specific cosmetics offered as part of hero progression, for instance, rather than just icons and banners. I don't know if this model is sustainable. So yeah, again, that's another like, you have to think about the whole picture, right? How do you solve monetization with a game in active development? It's hard. There's actually more resources getting pumped into these games that are on not life support, but like being supported as they go, because you have to think about server maintenance. You have to think about all these extra things that aren't on top of just developing the game, right? That's why Marvel Rivals is going to be able to pump out so much content early, because it's made before the game had shipped. Now that the game has shipped, so many more resources have to be allocated to different things, right? So now it's going to be hard to continue this type of momentum, to get the money flowing while, getting resources to make things that make money, right? So that is where things get hard, and it is a very difficult problem when a game is in active development, right? And that's where I think, this is not really about Overwatch 2 as a game itself, but part of where PvE in Overwatch 2 suffered because Overwatch was in active development and they only wanted one team, so spreading out those resources was very, very difficult, right? So that is kind of where that is. And I'm glad to see people kind of like have that like hindsight here where they're like, I'm complaining about things, I don't like things, but I do understand like why it's here, why it's happening. There's a little bit of nuance here. It is great to see. Often too expensive. It feels like the skins come first and the game second sometimes. Obviously different teams, but how has Blizzard defined what team gets most funding and employees is my worry. Edit, I think Marvel Rivals is just as bad holistically, and maybe the overall cosmetic quality is higher. Not necessarily the skins themselves, but animations, effects, whatever, except for voice lines, OW on top of writing, right. It's more over the top. I'm fine with keeping it more reserved to preserve gameplay quality, but then the price should reflect that. Obviously, it's all manipulation to get you to spend, but if the prices are as high as they are, might as well hype it up, make it cool to buy a skin. That's an interesting way to look at this, because I actually am kind of concerned already with where Marvel Rivals has put a lot of its resources. So Marvel Rivals, and this is like in a design standpoint, I don't think this is necessarily bad, but I think it's pretty obvious that a lot of the character designs and abilities are, they take different mechanics and stuff and kind of put them on other characters, right? Flying and wall running and everything, they're just kind of like copy and pasted. It keeps their development time down for those characters, research, development, implementation, all of that. But you see a lot of, effort not only go into these really complicated victory screens and all of these like nice skins and cosmetics, but also if you've ever looked in the Marvel Rivals shop with some of these legendary skins, they have animations that play that are specifically when you just look at the legendary skin. It is not a highlight, it is not something like that. It is literally just to make legendary skins look cooler to buy them. To me, that is a crazy way to get people to try to buy your skins, because it's actually like, that is more like, we're putting our money and stuff to making our skins look flashier, so that you are more inclined to buy them because they look cooler, right? Like, there's this cool animation that shows off the skin really well. It's unique animation that goes along with the thematic of whatever that skin is, which is, I don't know, that's such a weird thing to me, that I agree with you, right? You don't want to put too much more effort into trying to get you to buy the skins, right? Because then it's, again, more resources going away from it. And that to me feels a little scummier, right? I actually think that putting things that are literally like super hard work and artistry that at the end of the day is its only function is to sell, that is scummy to me. That is a little too much. So Overwatch not doing that, I think, is a very, very a good thing, in my opinion. TLDR, I think monetization is mostly fine. Most suggestions for Overwatch 1 features coming back are just people who can't let go and will stay mad no matter what they do. Personally, FOMO isn't a big deal because it's all up to self-control. You can't control yourself enough to not spend $20, then learn from it, and if you regret it, do a double take before you spend. Again, that goes into everything as kind of predatory in some way, but I do agree that there is a bit on you. If you regret spending $20, then yeah, again, don't do it again. But, at the end of the day, it is all optional. And again, when they manipulate your sensibilities, it's a little harder, right? That's a bit of a, what's it called? It's a bit of a tough thing there, but I think we all know that they are manipulating our sensibilities. That's how things are sold to us. It is now your job to understand how. And once you understand how it's happening, then you make the decision about like, okay, I'm still okay with this, right? Like I've kind of like stepped back. That is tough. You know what I mean? So it's like, I do sympathize but I also kind of agree that it is on you at the end of the day. Another issue is that there are clear favoritism for characters that are so popular, aka women plus Reinhardt. Why are these characters so popular? Maybe because they get so many more skins. Kiri has more skins than Zarya and Sigma, but if not Sigma, definitely Zarya. Give these less popular characters good skins to see if it helps at all. You give Zarya an insane mythic or mythic weapon, you might get more people playing her, and some might try her for the first time and like playing her, thus more characters get love. This isn't interesting. I've never thought about this kind of feedback loop, right? Where we all understand why certain characters get a lot of, money and skins, like, right? It makes a lot more money for Blizzard. That's why they get them. It's more consistent value. I talked about that earlier. But the fact, this is again kind of like the sunk cost fallacy. Like, well, I've spent so much money on Kiriko. Like, I just need to keep playing Kiri. And I'm not going to spend money on a Zarya, even though I like that skin because I'm a Kiri person. But yeah, and then also the fact that there aren't as many skins for Zarya, especially not very good ones overall, sorry Zarya, that people won't even give her a shot because the cosmetics are such an important factor in this game. And you may think like, I don't care about cosmetics, I've never worn cosmetics, I play characters because I think they're fun. Good for you. That's not everybody. Cosmetics are a very important part of Overwatch. They are key to its identity. They are core of Overwatch. That is an undeniable fact. So it is important. You do have to think about how you spread the love, right? So I think that's a really interesting point, that like the reason why characters are getting so many more skins than others is just the fact that what's it called? There's nothing else, right? There's nothing else to buy, and then you don't want to play these characters so they don't have as much either. So that is really, really interesting. I like that point a lot. I do think they need to add some new stuff into their current monetization or change things up to spice it up. Do I know what they should do? No, I'm just some guy who makes videos once a week. I don't know what a multi-billion-dollar company should do with games. That's a good way to, yeah, I'm also a guy that just makes a couple videos a week. You know, it's all conjecture. It's all just talk, right? I don't know. I don't have a business degree. I don't know, right? Like there are other people making these decisions. There is a lot behind the curtain that we don't understand. What we see is what we play with, what we interact with in game. Like what we understand is what we get. Our scope is limited. We just have to make conjecture. And I think that's a good, like, that's something that we have to keep in mind as well. We don't know the full story down here, but our experience is still valid because we are the ones that give them the money. So I don't think that this is a what's it called? A futile. I don't think this is a futile experiment or a situation, but it is something to take note of that we don't know everything, right? I think Maximilian's Vault is lacking. The prices are still a considerable amount than what they should be for in game. That is currently losing players. The skin selections themselves are questionable. Blizzard claims it matches your playstyle, but for my own Vault and others that I've asked, only about 1 or 2 were characters that we play, sometimes not even our mains. My duo is a top 30 tank on console and has about 3 hours on Mercy, and Mercy showed up in his Vault with 2k plus hours on other heroes. Seems like the Vault was a cheap way to seem like they were giving back, but in reality, it was something to make them look like they were cutting prices for the consumer to look good against the competition. I think what's happened here is that if I have to guess how this algorithm is working, is that it's finding a floor. It's finding either a floor or a ratio, but I would assume a floor of like, okay, have you played this character for this many hours? Great. Put him in the shop, right? Every character, like for every character in Overwatch, save for like the most recent ones, I probably have at least 10 hours in those characters, even if I don't like them. Maybe that's a bit much, but like I have at least like 5 hours on every hero in this game. And I think my most played characters are only like not even that much. Like my curve is pretty like unimodal. Obviously it skews with the characters I like more, but like for a player of a hero shooter, it's much more flat than most people. I got the same thing, right? I got a bunch of Mercies in my shop as well. So I think their algorithm just needs tweaking. But I do understand how it can feel like a bit of a ripoff. That I can sympathize with, right? Like it's a feature that was rolled out not in the best state. And that can be really frustrating. So I do agree with that, especially since it's tied to monetization that comes with bad blood, etc., etc., etc. I'm tired of so many shooters having the free to download but $20 season pass model. I know they have to make money somehow, and there are not a lot of options. It just feels like a lot when you're playing a few of these games and feel the psychological pressure to buy it the more progress you make. IMO, if the night market ends up having old locked battle pass stuff, that would be a great compromise. I tell you how battle passes are a good way to get people in and have a good progression system, but they are part of that sunk cost thing where, oh my god, I need to keep playing Overwatch to get all my battle pass stuff because I bought the battle pass, and I don't want it to go to waste. And then it's like, well, I have less opportunity to play other things. Like I can't tell you like how many times I've been like, I want to play another game. You know, I want to go sit down and I want to go play Silent Hill, right? And then I'm like, but I have only so much time before this battle pass goes away, and my weeklies, you know, I need to get my weeklies done or my dailies done, or I want to watch a movie, but like, you know, I only have 2 days left in the season. I'm really trying to push for that title, you know. That is part of like the getting caught in the Overwatch trap, and that's what they want. They want you to get caught. They want you to get stuck in their game. They don't want you to go away. They want you playing as much as possible. And that's just how it is, right? There's too much. It's overwhelming. I can't play multiple games because there's so much stuff I have to keep track of that I might as well just play Overwatch because I want the stuff in it, right? That is just the way that free-to-play is going. I have gripes with the Battle Pass model. I think it's a better solution than loot boxes, but it's definitely not a perfect solution. And yeah, Battle Passes, if they never go away, is a much better in my opinion. But then I do feel like it can kind of stack up on you, and where it's like, oh my god, which one do I even work on at this point? Like, because now I have so many battle passes because I don't want to like lose them, right? Like I don't want to not have the opportunity to get them. Now I have so many battle passes that I never finished, and now I'm just kind of wasting time if I'm doing the wrong ones. And I have the current battle pass, and like even a system that is good on paper and is a net positive has a lot of like elements that go into that play my game, play only one game, right? That psychology of it. So just because there are good things to it doesn't exactly mean that they're perfect either. I think that's something that you need to like take into consideration. I understand why they had to move away from loot boxes, and since the game is free to play now, they obviously need a way to generate income, but everything about it seems really scummy, generic, and unfun. Before we get into this, generic is a weird word. Generic, like saying it is like a bad thing, and it's like, I want my monetization to be interesting and unique, and it's like, it's still monetization. Like, I don't know, you have to be careful about how much you gamify or like you make the monetization seem fun, right? Monetization that is generic and unfun, I want to be sold in an interesting way, a unique way. You're still getting sold at the end of the day. So that's like a bit of a tough call, because I kind of get it. Like, loot boxes are more interesting, they're more fun, but again, that's very manipulative. It's very gambling coded. So that's the fact that it is generic and unfun is probably more pro-consumer than something like a loot box. The battle pass is okay, but a battle pass is something that literally almost every other game does, except the rewards, and Overwatches are generally lackluster, comparatively speaking. I mean, there's a few good skins here and there, but if you don't like any of the characters that get skins, then there's not a lot to drive to compete it unless you like completing everything. I also don't know if it's possible the battle pass should at least reward you with enough coins that you can buy the next one. Because as it stands, you only get 600 gold coins, so you need to complete 2 to get a battle pass. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not really willing to spend money on this game, so I feel like they could get more engagement if they essentially allow players to earn the next battle pass by completing the previous one. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good way to get like, oh, if you do everything, then you get another battle pass for free. Then you might be more incentivized to play or you spend your money elsewhere. The way Overwatch does it is just like, they effectively are just giving you a discount on the next one, right? If you beat the battle pass, you spend $5. You don't even have to beat the battle pass, maybe. You spend $5, you get the next one. They still want that income that is consistent, right? That's why they do that, right? Battle passes that feed into themselves are de-emphasized, and they put a lot more money and effort into the shop. That's like a Fortnite kind of thing, right? I think Halo does that as well. I don't know how Halo is working out for them, but that is like, they don't have the resources to do so much like that, that I think that the consistent income to them is very important. Now, again, if the shop becomes as lucrative as possible, this is something I can see changing. I can see them doubling the coins that you get. In my opinion, being able to get the next battle pass for free is very stupid. It cuts too deep into devs' pockets. You're basically asking for free cosmetics every month at this point. So yeah, again, like that's the difficulty. It's the same thing with taking heroes off the battle pass. If they can justify the value that they get from the shop and all the other purchases being high enough, then they can get rid of that consistent money maker because of the profit of something else, right? So right now they aren't confident in that. So they have a half solution here. You see what I'm talking about? They need that consistent money, because that is something that also plays well to investors. It plays well to suits. Consistent money, not big bursts of it, but something that you will always be getting at a time. That's why subscription models are so good, not good, are so like widespread, because they want consistent value. That is very, very important to the suits, right? Also, it's not something that can be reverted. That is true, right? Once you do that, then you're stuck with that forever. The option is no longer on the table to go back to monetizing it in the same way. That's a really good point. Besides that, skins and bundles in general are just overpriced. Like 3 or 4 skins should not cost $30 to $40. I mean, a single skin is now worth $20. Although honestly, this is something that Overwatch will never be able to fix. Since Overwatch started as a game you have to buy, a lot of people who play back then will always have that in their mind. Basically, you'll be thinking to yourself, this game used to cost $60 and now you're telling me 3 skins is worth more than the whole game? And it turns a lot of people off. And I'm assuming it's different for people who didn't play Overwatch 1, but a large percentage did play. And that negative mindset is just an unavoidable consequence of going free to play, because if you charge people for what was once free, they aren't going to like it regardless of the reason. That is an important point, and I think that's probably a pretty good wrap to this whole thing. Like, this is a good final point, is that Overwatch is running the uphill battle. It's always going to be going on the uphill battle, because it's comprised of people who've been playing this game since they bought it. Many of us have bought it at full price, who bought it multiple times, who have spent so much money and got the entire experience for a flat rate, and they changed it to something else. And I think that's where a lot of people are like, they hate Adobe, and they hate, I'm trying to think of anything else that went like subscription based, where it's like, you used to sell this product for one thing, and now you're selling it differently. The thing about Overwatch is that the game itself and the way that the things that they give you have changed, right? In Adobe, it's like, I used to buy Photoshop once, now I have to buy it every month for the same thing. In Overwatch, I used to buy Overwatch and get everything, but now I a la carte it, right? And the prices are expensive, right? Comparing to the last thing, but you kind of have to take that mindset out, right? Like, oh, I bought this game once. It's like, you're getting a different value, right? When you spend your money, you're getting a different value. You're getting different things. You're not just spending $60 a year or whatever, however much you spend to get what you used to get, right? You're getting individual skins. You're getting a battle pass with a bunch of different stuff, right? You aren't getting the game anymore, right? It's not a perfect way to look at it. Obviously, that is always going to be there, but again, like the money is going towards different stuff. The stuff you get with the money is different. That is what you have to kind of like keep in mind. For a lot of people now, it's like, now the game is just free. Like, some people are getting in, like, I never had to buy Overwatch, and now I just play Overwatch and I don't even worry about the cosmetics. And like, that's the game, right? That is a positive to them. And I think a lot of people, this model is probably a lot more positive to them as well, and they kind of don't know it. But yeah, I get it, right? If you played Overwatch before, it feels worse, and there's just kind of no way to get around that unless you have a much more intensive reward system that I think is hard to justify, at least with how much money Overwatch currently makes. But again, we'll never know that. So that is a good way, I think to wrap this up. So basically, at the end of the day here, what is the big picture? What is the point here? Well, you're never going to escape it. You can't escape this type of monetization. It's going to be in here. Not everything is horrible, terrible, no good, very bad, right? I think we need to think a little more holistically here about all these things, right? There's a lot of bias, and yes, it's always going to be like somewhat predatory. It's always going to be like, I feel like I'm getting sold to. Unfortunately, that is the live service thing. If we want these games to keep going, keep making money, keep giving us the stuff that we like the free heroes and the free maps and everything that we expect, this is just the reality of it. And in my opinion, giving the consumer at least more ways to interact with it, right, is going to feel better in the long run. Every time one of these things gets added, everyone talks scummy, everyone talks like we're getting, it's all predatory, it's all just more monetization. But now you get to choose a lot of different things about how you spend your money and how you interact with Overwatch. It's maybe getting people to spend more money more often, sure, but I think the reality is that you get to feel a little better about what you spend because you have a lot more control over how you spend. So yes, there are going to be people who spend considerably more every time one of these things comes out, but I think for the majority of people, the spending is going to feel better to them. You know what I mean? When you spend money on a battle pass, you know that the mythic thing that you get is going to be anything you want. And the longer that they keep adding more mythic skins and mythic weapons, the more choice that you get, right? Maybe I don't like this battle pass, but I know that I'm going to get a mythic out of it. And instead of having to spend $50, I only spend $10. And I get all this extra stuff as well. Now, of course, that goes into the mindset of like, now they're just tricking you into getting more things. But does it feel okay for this consumer, right? I think a lot of the early monetization just felt scummy. It felt bad to use, right? It felt like I was getting, like I have to buy the battle pass to get the new character because I want to play the new character. But it is, I think, a better system for these people who are going to spend the same amount of money as they would have. And maybe, again, they'll be inclined to spend more. That's what Blizzard wants you to, but you don't have to. So the experience overall, in my opinion, does improve. For most people, the experience does improve when they add these things. They aren't as shiny, they aren't as exciting as a map or a mode, but they are important. They are important to the quality of life, and I think that is a very underrated element. So if we cannot get away from these monetization strategies, it's not a bad thing to try to improve the experience around the monetization in the first place. And I think Overwatch has made a lot of strides in the last 2 years, making the game not feel as bad to play and to spend money in. And, I'm not going to go into the rabbit hole about again and again about, is that okay? Should that be the thing? Is that scummy? Is that predatory? It doesn't end. It never ends. Let's just cut it off here. That's my piece. That's what I think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please, if you haven't subscribed already and you like this stuff, please subscribe and like this video, by the way. I do really appreciate it. And of course, in the comments below, what do you think? Please let me know what you think about all of this. I'm sure this will never end. We'll always be talking about this forever. And it's okay. Like, if you want to complain, please do. If you don't want to complain, do that as well. I don't care. It's valid. It's all valid. This was streamed live. I had a lot of people talking today. That's twitch.tv/LateHemingway, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. My stream schedule is in my Discord. I'm going to start pinging at Twitch when I put the stream schedule out so that people don't forget it or not see it. There is a channel. I do have a stream schedule. It is in there. And that Discord is linked in the description if you want to get in there, talk. I asked YouTube here, but I also asked Discord for a bunch of things as well, if you want to get in on the community there. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and please have a good day.